Welcome to Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben, where each week it's my great pleasure to meet fascinating people who tell us about the challenges they're facing with their work-life balance. I'm Dr. Ben Sinclair, and I wonder, do you struggle with your priorities? On the one hand, focusing on your work, business or career, namely your wealth, or on the other hand, looking after your health, which is so important. Over the past 20 years as a GP, I've seen many people spending too long on their screens, cutting corners on their sleep, diet or exercise. The result? Their work life's going well, but their health can suffer. I sincerely hope that my guests' personal and professional experiences may help you to improve your own health and life. My guest today is famous for cooking amazing food for other people, but the rich ingredients of her own life and career have included famous chef, restaurant owner, healthy cooking expert, carbon-free dining ambassador, catering staff trainer and children's food educator, all with a sprinkling of serial entrepreneur. Today, she'll tell us how your cooking pans at home may contain powerful hidden toxins that are damaging your health. She'll also reveal how you can access the secret powers of certain ancient supergrains. Now, the media call her the Veggie Virtuoso. Her kitchen teams call her Chef D. To us, she's the amazing Daksha Parekh. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Ben, for having me.
It's so good to have you on the show. Now, can I call you Chef D?
You can.
Thank
obviously.
you. You can call me Dr. Ben. Now, you started cooking age 4, I hear.
Yes, that's what my parents say, and that's what my legacy is. Everybody's always used to come home and watch me cook. Stood upon a stool, helping my mum roll the first chapatis, and that's where it all began.
Oh, what a lovely story. You must have had an early gift for this sort of thing.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, as a teenager, you were born and raised in Birmingham, but you first travelled to India aged 19.
Yes.
Why did you go and what happened?
Long story, but I came back a married woman, so that probably answers your question. But yes,
congratulations.
Yes, at the age of 19, went away with my parents and had a lovely holiday, met my husband, and we got engaged, and all started from there, very young
lovely.
age.
Oh, now, it must have been different seeing the food kind of in India rather than in Birmingham.
Absolutely. That's where it all exploded for me, because I couldn't understand the difference and the amount of flavors. You can just walk less than 100 yards and you've got another shop. Less than another 100 yards, you've got another food outlet. And every single dish and every single food was just absolutely bursting with flavors and amazing. And the richness about it was the live cooking that you could see, the little shops where the cook is just cooking away and you can see it live. And we never got to see that in the UK. So it was absolutely fantastic. And that, for me, just sparked a whole new era of wanting more, learning more about all of this again. So that at the age of 19, I thought, right, this is it now. This is what I want to do. I want to know my roots and where the food came from and learn everything properly. So that's where it all started as well.
And tell us about your ideas about restauranting.
Always wanted to run my own restaurant as a young girl, and growing up in a vegetarian family, being vegetarian ourselves, we used to find it difficult to eat out. Not a lot of restaurants had vegetarian options, or not enough. You'd probably go there and go to 5 restaurants and each of them have probably got two items we've got to choose from. So parents just started cooking at home, and slowly as years evolved, we started getting good ingredients in the UK as well. So mum and dad would just cook and create things at home, and that's where it all developed from. Wow. So we'd all cook and eat as a family, but we'd try to mimic a restaurant, and for me it was like, I'm going to open the first vegetarian restaurant in the UK. But obviously somebody did it before me, but that was the thought.
That's lovely. Now, when you were 24, you were working as a receptionist and you got your first lucky break. What was it?
My lucky break was I was booking luncheons for all the delegates and the directors. And one afternoon, the food didn't arrive. And I realized there's a real big problem here. The next event that I booked, some of the foods that we had booked also didn't arrive. So we literally just had rice and some salad. So I said to the director, is it possible I can bring some food in one of the days? And he goes, oh, why not? Because we're always talking about food. It was just something we always talked about in the offices. Lo and behold, one day I brought some food in. I got up early, about 5 o'clock in the morning, put some food together, packed it all up in boxes and took it to work with me, popped it in the fridge. Came lunchtime and the caterers arrived with their food. And I also displayed my food, which was a vegetable biryani, some kachoris and a couple of dips.
Oh, you're making me hungry.
And so it went down a treat. The directors and the delegates absolutely loved it. They couldn't believe the flavours and the textures. And at the same time, the catering company were blown away as well. So that's where it all sort of started for me. Started getting little orders from my own company, and it all started from there.
Oh, that's so fantastic. It's funny how just a little thing just gives you the chance to shine.
Absolutely,
and you're away.
Yeah.
That's lovely. And that ended up with a restaurant.
Well, not straight away. I opened my first snack shop first. First snack shop and sweet centre. Now, when I say sweets, we're talking about Indian sweets, laden with ghee and sugar and
so really healthy.
Not as healthy at all. So yeah, back in the day, our first business adventure was a sweet centre and a snack shop, which we sort of reduced the sweet section, increased more of the savouries, and then started catering from there. And that then developed into a restaurant.
Welcome back to Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben. For those of you just joining us, my guest today is the amazing Chef D, catering industry pioneer. Now, Chef, you've owned restaurant businesses. On this show, we discuss health versus wealth. What's your view on this balancing act?
Absolutely. It's a balancing act I learned very long after I started in the industry. I wish I knew when I did start, but yes, it's definitely a balancing act. Very difficult. When you're starting a new business, it's full force, all on the go. You don't think it's night or day. You're working round the clock. And later on, it does catch up with you, believe me. And it's very, very important, health versus wealth. And that's why now today, I turn it around and say health is the real wealth. It's very, very important because I learned the hard way.
I love that statement. Tell me more about, how did you come to that realization the hard way?
I came to that realization 22 years into my 25-year career. So literally right to the end of deciding to close my businesses, I realized I've overdone it. I've been on a constant roller coaster, up and down, had my children, married life, everything. But for me, business was always very, very important. So I was physically, mentally, always with my business, working around the clock until, unfortunately, you know what they say, your body will say, okay, enough is enough now.
The body says no.
That's it. So yeah, and unfortunately, I came to a crash. My body did crash and I had to stop. Luckily, 2020 for me, some people say 2020 wasn't lucky, but for me, 2020 was quite a lucky. And
it's a good time to get out of the restaurant business.
Yes. And, fortunately or unfortunately, we all had to close for a while. And that showed me a whole new life, what other possibilities. And I realized that this is the time. I've got to pivot and I've got to change. It's like I've done everything I've always wanted to do, but I know there was more I wanted to do. I was waiting for my calling and I found my calling.
Wow. And it's funny how circumstances conspire around us. At the time, you had to shut a restaurant. We had to shut a clinic. And we started home visiting at Dr. Finlay's because no one was in the town. I would drive through the city of Birmingham and I maybe saw 10 people. Most of them were sort of policemen or emergency workers. There was just no one around. And it felt really strange at that point. And there were no restaurants open. It wasn't all that bustle.
Yeah.
So what a great time to pivot for you and to close a restaurant when everyone else was struggling to keep them open.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a question really I needed to ask myself, but my family obviously helped me make that decision as well. They said, well, my children had grown up. We were sitting at home with grown daughters and I'm like, when did you all grow up? So time had really taken a toll on me and very, very fast. So it got to a stage where I thought, there's lots of other things I've always wanted to do, but I couldn't. So I thought, right, next 2 to 3 years, let's do other things. Let's see if there's something else out there that holds that much passion as my restaurants did. And yes, and I found it. And I found it. And I absolutely love what I'm doing now.
Now, I'm going to come on to that. I'm really interested in what you're doing now. You mentioned that you're in quite a lot of pain when you had this crash. And we know stress causes physical inflammation of the body. How is your health now? Has that got better? Did the flip work?
Yes, the flip definitely worked. Obviously, work-life balance is a key, which I didn't learn. If I understood this many years back, maybe my body wouldn't have crashed. But yes, work-life balance is definitely the key. A lot of rest, good sleep, eating at the right time.
That helps.
Eating at the right time. Owning a restaurant and catering business, we would have our one meal a day, probably 1 o'clock at night. And sometimes you're so tired, you just reach for a bowl of cereal and fall asleep. And you're back in that routine again the next day. And you don't know how many years, go by with this horrible routine. So for me right now, yes, work-life balance, a different mindset, looking after yourself has made a massive difference. I'm off all my painkillers. I've not touched anything probably other than paracetamol in 4 years. And I'm so glad about that. It's been a slow turnaround, but everybody's noticed it. I've noticed it. I'm a lot more active. Yes, I was active in my business as well. But, we're robots in our own business. You're repeating the same pattern day in, day out. But right now, you're able to do a lot more. And that's where the key is for me. It's like, okay, as much as I used to love that life, but today I'm in a better place, able to do better things. If I ever wanted to go back into the restaurant business, I know what I don't need to do anymore. I know really how to do it correctly. So yes.
Wow, it's a great realization to
Absolutely.
come to, and to have that capacity to do the things you want to do now.
Absolutely.
Not just that you have to keep repeating the same thing that was detrimental to your health. Now, you've done some in-depth research into the health aspects of cookery equipment. Why?
How I fell into that was I started learning about nutrition. My older sister had cancer. And when she was battling through all of that, one of the fundamental things we understood was nutrition, food. So I started diving into the world of nutrition, helping her, helping ourselves. And this whole new world opened up. So with pairing that up with my, obviously, profession, my cooking skills and everything, I realized something's missing. Understood about the ingredients, putting it together, buying the right ingredients, preparing it. But something in that whole thing was missing. It was like a missing link. And you know what they say, when you're onto a good thing, God brings good people into your life and good possibilities. And that's what happened. In 2021, I came across a company that did non-toxic cookware. And I was approached to do some cooking for them. Just they wanted to do some videos, or could you do some cooking? Seeing that you're doing healthy cooking, because obviously that was their motto as well. And when I started doing that, I'm cooking on with their equipment, and I'm like absolutely blown away. I'm thinking, what is this stuff? This is like magical. It was cooking my food beautifully. The flavors were amazing. I could cook without oil. So obviously I learned more about the actual cookware. Then learning about that cookware opened up a whole new, dimension of, there's me looking at ingredients and nutrition, but what do we do with those ingredients and nutrition? We need to cook them. So if our pots and pans are actually putting toxins back into our food, what's the point of reaching for good quality organic foods if the final metal it's touching is completely wrong? And that was just, for me, I was blown away. I didn't understand how important that was. So obviously non-stick, aluminium, certain stainless steel is still bad for you. The metals they use in these cookware is what's dangerous. And the heat we use to cook our food, although our pans are made to, obviously withstand so much heat, but as soon as that heat reaches 100, 150 degrees, our pans start fuming. We don't realize that, but they're fumes.
Now, is this non-stick pans or any pan?
All pans.
Because we've got a set of stainless steel copper bottom pans that we had on our wedding list from 22 years ago, and they're still going. Are they dangerous to me?
They're not dangerous to you because they're still stainless steel and you've got copper at the bottom. Okay. The only thing maybe you'd probably have problems with is the heat distribution, because sometimes if you've got too many multitude of different materials on a pan, they all heat up at different temperatures. So other than that, so sometimes you might find you're cooking something even though it's nice and hot, but it's not cooking everything, the top is still cold. So things like that I learned, and I realized that using pots and pans all my life, especially my profession as well, you never understood how important these, equipment. Absolutely, tools of the job. Wow. So yes, so with this company, I realized that this was incredibly important, and for me, it became the missing link to my healthy cooking.
Now, Chef, I'm told that you believe in the magical power of millets. What are they, and what are their secret powers?
Right, millets. Oh my goodness. Yes, secret powers. And millets, I would call them absolutely magical, marvelous. And the superpowers they hold are absolutely phenomenal. They are the ancient grains. And when I say ancient, these are the kind of foods our ancestors ate, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And that was their staple. Wheat and rice was not their staple. In today's society, wheat and rice has become our staple. So millets have been revived by India in 2016. And they revived it in India itself, started regrowing millets for humans to consume rather than cattle and fodder and whatever. So they realized that these grains are not only amazing for human consumption like they were originally, but they're also a sustainable food for the environment. They don't need excessive water to grow, they don't need climate, they don't need fields, they don't need looking after. It's absolutely amazing to grow them. They grow wild as well.
No fertilizers?
No fertilizers.
That's a win.
They can, absolutely. It's a win-win in every level. So India created this awareness program from 2016, which went to 2019. Then in 2023, last year, India declared millets as an international year of millets, and they took it further. They, involved a lot of important heads of state in countries.
Which countries were involved?
All countries. The G20 that they had in India, I think it was September or November. And the G20 that they started in India, all the food that they fed all the delegates and all the people was all millets, just to promote it, just to make people understand the importance of millets. So the education was there. So they started educating everybody on the higher levels as well. And in my journey of nutrition and health, I came across millets about, I would say 4 years ago. But when I say millets, I'm only talking about one or two, because in the Western world, we don't really get access to all the millets. And I was absolutely blown away that there are more millets out there. There's not just the three that I grew up with here in UK.
Because I thought there was just like millet. It was one thing, like corn or something like that. Are there multiple species?
There's 10 millets.
Wow.
5 of them are called positive millets.
Right.
They're called the small millets, but positive millets. And when they call them positive millets, it's because they've actually got healing properties. If cooked in the right protocol with the soaking and cooking, because it's very important to do that. Millets hold a lot of fiber content. So if that fiber is not activated correctly, it can be detrimental to people who have got bad digestive issues and stuff like that. So it's very important to cook it with the correct protocol. So there is an education behind it, and it's with anything. I mean, even if we were to buy rice, we need to know what rice we're buying for a particular dish. So with every food, there's a little bit of education behind it. So I'm trying to, when I found out all about millets, because I took wheat out of my diet naturally. I'm not celiac, but I took it out because of health reasons. And I realized it did a lot of good for me. I started naturally losing weight as well. My bloating started reducing. So wheat for me made a lot of difference. But what do I substitute it with?
Good point.
I didn't want to substitute with rice. And the gluten-free flours out there, I found them too starchy, full with a lot of rice flours and a lot of tapioca starch or potato starch. I thought, no, this is not for me. I don't want to move from one evil to another evil. So I started investigating myself, and I found other millets in India and Africa, China. I thought, oh my God, what are these super grains? So that's where I started understanding the power of millets. I reached out to the correct people. Last year I went to India, stayed 3 months, did a small millet course there as well. Just understanding what this super grain is all about and why we don't get all of them here in the UK.
I was just about to ask, how do we get hold of the super grain?
Yeah, we're getting
I'm
there.
gluten-free.
Yeah.
I don't like all the gluten-free flour.
Yeah.
You know, it's very starchy. I just stopped eating things
Absolutely,
that were made of flour, but I haven't really had an alternative.
Yeah, so these grains are amazing. They're naturally gluten-free, extremely high in fiber. They've got amazing protein levels and all the other nutritional values in there, absolutely phenomenal. But again, it's very, very important that you have to go by the protocol of cooking it.
So the preparation sounds key.
The preparation is the key.
And
yes.
this is where your passion is coming out, because I can see you're smiling, you're getting really excited. Now, earlier you told me that your new passion, you know, you were about to say, and then I stopped you. So what's the new passion, and how can you help people to become aware of
So
millets?
basically what I want to do, and I'm doing at the moment as well, is teaching people how to cook healthy with the correct ingredients. Now, if somebody came to me and said, oh, I'm a diabetic, but I find the family find it difficult to cook for me and I feel left out from the dining table, my food is always separated. So I go into that family and I says, look, let's stop here, because as a diabetic, he or she does not need to eat separately. You're cooking healthy food. You should be all eating healthy food. We should all be eating low GI foods, high fiber foods. We should be removing these, raw sugars and, all these processed foods. It's good for everybody. But when you have an ailment and you go to, sorry, I'm talking to a doctor here, but when you go to the doctors, the first thing they do, they'll give you a leaflet and they say, right, this is the kind of foods you've got to eat. But nobody teaches them how to cook those foods.
Exactly. We need training.
Exactly. Nobody teaches them how to cook the foods. You've got a list of ingredients. Now you take that home. If your wife is cooking or your children are cooking, or if you're cooking, you're lost. And you feel as if I've just got to do this for myself. How long will that person continue to eat like that?
And the piece of paper doesn't tell you what to do or how to live your life. It just says, mainly, these are things to avoid and these are things you should eat more of. But it doesn't say how.
Exactly. So I thought, right, okay, this is where I can put my expertise into it and say, okay, I know how to cook. And I love cooking and I love flavors and I know the importance of different herbs, spices, how to put them together. So how can I help these people? How can I turn my life's work into something positive again and bring back the passion I once had for all my businesses? And now when I started doing this, I started doing small workshops, free events, community events. And when I saw that spark in people's face and the questions they asked me when I was cooking, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I love this. Helping them out. So I do classes and I teach people. I do free workshops as well. I'll come into your home. I'll take over your kitchen and I'll cook for you.
And you've actually you brought some food instead.
Yes.
And it's sat here and I'm smelling it and it smells
absolutely,
so good.
Yes. So that's basically what I've transitioned into doing, and I absolutely love doing it.
Fantastic. I think it's so good to empower others with application of knowledge. They say knowledge is power, but actually you need someone to show you, not just have the knowledge, because we all have a lot of good knowledge about how to prevent disease, how to be healthy. We all know we're supposed to be eating less sugar, doing more steps.
Yeah.
But how many of us are actually doing that? And you're overcoming the barriers. And Dr. Finley's, we love empowering people to do the right thing, not just say, here's a sheet of information, now go away and you work it out, but actually to do it together. So I often have walking meetings. I actually have meetings from my plunge pool where I'm actually doing my cold water immersion.
Yeah.
And I kind of think you really practicalize the food bit, which so many people need. It's such an important thing. The question in my head is, why haven't we got access to these millets in the UK right now, and how can we get hold of them?
I'm working on it. I've teamed up with some people now. Hopefully in the next couple of months we'll be able to procure the positive millets affordable. I would also add that in as well, because unfortunately, as much as they're affordable in other countries, but to bring them to the UK ends up adding so much to each kilo. So if I'm teaching you how to eat healthy and you say, well, that's costing me an arm and a leg, is that going to really be worthwhile? Well, how long is somebody going to be able to continue that practice? So that was our biggest problem last year. I mean, I could talk about millets until it comes out my ears, but if you can't get hold of the ingredients and affordability as well, how long is that going to last? So I'm working on that at the moment, and hopefully we can get the positive millets in the UK regularly and organically as well, because that's also important where Absolutely. They come from. So I've been working hard on that all of last year. So we're getting there very slowly now.
Well done. Can we not grow them here? Is it not the right climate? Because you said they can grow anywhere, but I'm assuming you're meaning warm climates. You
need warm climates. They definitely need the warm climates. Now the UK can grow, I think it's little millet and sorghum millet. But they don't.
Right.
Nobody's doing it.
Yeah. So you're about to create a lot of demand, I think. So farmers out there, if you want to start growing sorghum millet, you might need to. If Chef D is successful with her education program. You've worked hard for business success, but your own health has suffered. How would you rate your current health and work-life balance?
I'd rate it a lot more easier because I'm not a 9-to-5 person anymore. I'm not subject to opening hours of a restaurant. I work when I want, how I want. Not everybody's got that opportunity, unfortunately. But even if people have got a time obligation, I still feel we need to make time for ourselves, especially when it comes to the food we put in our bodies. Because a lot of self-employed people, and I say self-employed because being self-employed myself, I know we're the worst when it comes to looking after ourselves. We'll do everything for everybody else, no matter what type of business we have. But if we've got lunch to have, we'll have it so fast. Or if we're going out lunch with friends or colleagues, or we're not thinking of what we're putting in our mouth because it's more important of the look and, it's a business lunch and we've got only this. But you've got to realize that out of 7 days in a week, if you're a 3-a-day eater, breakfast, lunch and dinner, you've got 21 opportunities to put good food in your mouth. So if you spend all that time just neglecting that, then sooner or later it is going to catch up on you. And when we talk about health versus wealth is not only, a lot of people think, but if I'm wealthy, I can afford the best doctors, afford the best medication. But do you really want to get that ill?
We want to prevent
and use up all that wealth.
There,
exactly.
I mean, you want that wealth for fun, not for sickness.
Exactly. And the way I see it, health versus wealth is, if you're healthy, you can create the wealth. If you're not healthy, how long will it take for your doors to close? If you can't physically run it anymore, how long is it going to last? So for me, that was my wake-up call. So working round the clock was just, I made a big mistake.
Chef, it's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me, and it was a pleasure to talk about all my experiences. And I've brought you some amazing millet and lentil pancakes.
I get to try the millet.
Yes, you actually get to try what we've been talking about.
Amazing.
And I've made a filling made from mixed vegetables, chickpeas, and a lot of herbs and spices.
Amazing. I'm going to try that right now.
That's something that you'll definitely enjoy. And the pancake mixture today, I've also added another level.
Smells good.
Another level of health with fermenting it. So you've got fermented batter there as well.
That is amazing. The flavours come right out. I'm glad
you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Please do come back and bring more food.
I will. I'd love to. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. So I do hope you enjoyed today's episode of Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben. And I hope it may help you improve your life and health. You can also take one easy step by achieving that right now by subscribing free on your usual podcast platform. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me on podcast@drfinlays.co.uk. I hope you'll join me again, but for now, it's goodbye from me, Dr. Ben.